So Dr. Greenwald, she's working closely with the Florida Department of Health, and she's actually doing a meeting to go over the cancer numbers soon, and she's working closely with city officials, so that's really good too. Our message today is we want to hear from you guys. I know that you'll see our faces in the news and being loud and using our voices, and we have to do that to raise awareness. If it wasn't for using our voices and using social media, we wouldn't be where we're at today. I think we've gone a long way in just a few months of finding out about PFOA and PFOS. I don't think it's just one chemical, and we are doing comprehensive testing to see if there are other known cancer-causing chemicals along with the PFOA and PFOS. So we'll be getting those back in 2 weeks, and like I said, we're going to be transparent with those results, and we're going to release them. We'll put them up on the website. Speaking of the website, we're launching that this weekend, Florida Health Connection. And if you guys want to volunteer or help out in our cause, we're always open for any kind of suggestions. We want you to share what your thoughts are on this, your stories, if you have any theories, share. We encourage that. So is there anybody that wants to share their story here today?
I just have a question. The South Patrick Shores is in Satellite Beach. What is the county doing to help you guys?
Well, we have, okay, so what Florida Health Connection does is we kind of do deal with local government and the county, and even as far up as government, like Rick Scott, we wrote numerous emails. We have not heard a single thing back from Kurt Smith yet, and we have tried to call. We have not been able to get a hold of him. But we continue to try, and we'll keep continuing with the emails and the calls. It's important. So if you guys want him to know, write him an email, call him. Let him know this issue is important to you and he needs to step up for South Patrick Shores, 32937. We have a lot of hashtags. We say save 32937. It's just bringing awareness. We have to have more people unite. That's what this is about. We need more people to bring awareness, to speak up, to unite. This isn't just a cancer issue. This is a health crisis, an environmental and a health crisis. We have people with ALS that we need to recognize. We have people with autoimmune diseases, thyroid issues. So this isn't just about cancer. Today we want everyone to know that this is more than just a cancer issue. It's a health crisis. So we need to find answers on why there's such a high rate in the area. As you saw lately, dolphins tested positive for this chemical. So what does that mean for us? Is it in the river? We tested the river. I guess we'll get those test results back soon and see what the levels are. So, yes, go ahead.
I have 3 children. All of them went to Satellite. My oldest daughter at 39 has moved to Atlanta. And in 2012, she was diagnosed with a very unusual, very rare form of breast cancer. She may have spoken with you. Her name is Jennifer. And they got her in surgery within 3 weeks because for someone her age, this was a juvenile cancer. As it was so, it was very aggressive. It doesn't respond to radiation. It didn't respond to chemotherapy. It would not. So they removed it. My youngest daughter is 34. She has dystonia. It's a form of a muscular disease. Neurologically, she walks with a walker. We live under that trench, on top of your trench. We're in the middle of your trench. My husband, who has his Air Force career, he has had multiple sclerosis for years, but it's not really getting worse. He just has it. It is what it is. But there's no correlation between my daughter, who's 34, and has dystonia. And it's kind of scary for me. We did go, he went on the TDY, we've always found parts of what he identified as, oh, this was an old naval, they used to fly the naval planes and stuff. But he broke out with huge blisters on the bottom of his feet for about a week after walking around where the sand was, the grass was gone in our backyard. The doctor said, I don't know, what have you been wearing for socks? He said, I've been home, man, I'm just deployed, I'm home now, I'm fine. But yeah, it's kind of scary. Maybe it's bad luck on our part.
Well, and see, what we don't want is for people to be scared. We want us to come together as a community and say, we're going to clean this up. Nobody wants to move. This is our home. Who wants to move? This is beautiful. You have the beach.
Yeah.
If we can clean this up.
What identifies the trench? Was there water there? Was there something put in this area? Was that trench somewhere where they did the recessing dumping, or was it a wet area?
Brian, do you want to speak on the trench? Okay.
Pointer.
Okay.
She wants the pointer.
Okay. Ask your trench question.
Stel.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. Go ahead, ask your trench question.
I just wish you could tell me what exactly does the trench entail? Is this a wet area? Is this filled with some type of waste? Or is this area just identified as a different type of soil on the beach? What is this trench filled with?
Do you have any ideas on that? He's the one that made the trench theory, so.
First of all, my name is Brian Piper. I'm sure everybody can hear me because I have a big mouth. I'm not prepared to come up here and really give a presentation. That's sort of my fault. I'm sort of in and out of medications and things like that. I'm from the base. I retired from the base, and I flew a rescue out of that with the 301st for 22 years. And they had us train in the canals and things like that. But so I'm a person that's into charts and aerials and into all these maps and things like that. I'm a chart person. Okay. And what I wanted to point out was there's a I'm using someone else's charts, but everybody has heard of topography maps. Okay, well, if you go to the Corps of Engineers, they have a set of charts that they're free online. Just go in and download them. They're dated, so you know exactly what happened when. And what I did was I got the 1943 photo. If you just have that blank aerial photo of when I overlaid all the ones, do you have that in your presentation?
I do. Here, Dan, let me do it.
Okay. And then the pointer. I'm not sure how far north it goes.
This is the 1943 right
Okay,
here.
so that's as high as you go. Okay,
That
and
is
do you have a
the
pointer?
oldest- That is the oldest photo,
At the
yes.
point.
And the pointer is that green button.
Okay, well, first of all, these charts are fantastic. You must have spent days on it, because I spent days on what I do, and it's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
What I noticed most of all is, if you follow this, I have the aerial map. If you want to stay after, I can show everybody. I got it on my computer. It's just that we're not hooked and linked. But I brought my map all the way up to the base, and I started with that 1943 image of the X landing strips with the upside down Y, and then the upside down Y stops about here on the map. You don't see it. That upside down Y, if you look at that area, is a munition storage area. Okay, it had two arms that extended out. I believe 3 bunkers on each arm of that. What's significant that is right above that area, and this area is the fire. Presently, it's the fire training area. Okay, if you can see here. If you just looked at that photo, and I can show it to you here, if you just look at the photo with nothing on it, what jumped out at me was this trench that goes all the way. It starts right at where the fire training area is. It goes past that confidential building. It parallels the right side of the Y, which is now identified, I believe, as landfill 2. And then as it goes south, This is landfill 1, and this trench goes by those and goes all the way down south and terminates just to the southeast of Satellite Beach High School. Okay? And my significance of that is, if you had just a flat planet and it rained, that's where that water's going. It's going to pool up. If you look at all the reports back in 1992, when the EPA came out and wrote the little thing, it said the prominent flow of the water is from east to west to the canal. I kind of disagree.
Sorry, what did you say, 92?
The 92 letter that the EPA wrote when the community had a meeting, they sort of identified the landfills I'm telling you about now, landfills 5, 1, 2, and 3, and there's a couple more. But in that letter, it said that when they analyzed the flow of these, the potential flow of pollutants coming out of here, it would flow this way. I kind of wonder if that's actually accurate. I think it would flow to the lowest point, the trench area, and then follow that trench and go south until it stops. It would tend to seep out to probably the west side of the area, but there is definite trench, and I can show you on a topography map. This is not a topography map. It's still in effect today. My suggestion is that when we test, that we test right here, right where that red dot is. Oh, this is another, if I go back to your heat map, does it have all the different?
Want the large one? Go back another.
There.
You go.
If you go to the heat map, this heat map identically follows that trench all the way down to there.
I've actually overlaid, you've probably seen it on Facebook, where I've taken and overlaid that upper portion of the heat map with the 1943 photo. And that upper hotspot there almost perfectly mirrors the outside of the 1943 Scorpion, as it's called.
Now you probably wonder why there's no red and yellow here. It's empty. There's no one there right now. It's base. Okay? So I went out here and I took photographs, and when you go past the baseball field and you look over the field, you see that trench follow all the way through. I was asked if it was done afterwards when they were building the homes. To my knowledge, I don't think it was, because when I bring up the aerial photographs of the homes, they weren't there. They didn't affect.
Where you thought where Satellite is in that picture, high school?
The high school, I think, is right about right in here.
Yes, right there.
And this is where that one terminates. But DP found the other one over here that originates over here and goes this way again. So there's one that starts up here at the fire pit area, and there's one that starts over here, over near the Scorpion, and comes back down. And they both, I'm not sure, I didn't follow yours through. I'm not sure if it terminates there, if it keeps going south.
That map where DeSoto is and the Satellite Beach Library?
DeSoto and Satellite Beach Library, wouldn't that be in here somewhere?
Let me see this real quick. Thank you, Dan. This is DeSoto right here. That's DeSoto. Satellite Beach Library is south of that. This is Cassia right there. This is City Hall. This is the Satellite Beach Library right here. And the eastern trench does terminate. It actually goes right through the grounds where the high school buildings are right here. It's not that it terminates here, it's that I haven't geocoded the southern portions of the image. It's a painstaking process to take and align these old photos, and I have yet to do the southern portions of it. I will get to you in just one moment. It's a painstaking process because I've got to overlay the 1958 imagery with the 1951, the 1958 imagery with the 2016 imagery, and use intersections of roads to adjust for any skew when the airplane was flying that took the picture. And then from there, I have to backtrack to the 1953 and use land features, coastline features, things like Nesbitt Island, Sampson's Island, the contours of the land to align it. And then I have to backtrack to the 1943 image. So it's a painstaking process, but it is something that I'm working on. I want to follow this trench as far south as it goes, because I do believe that it goes farther south than this.
When I first moved here in the 90s, there were some articles in the paper about the South Patrick housing area. And I was new here, so I didn't quite grasp the gravity of the issues. What I'd like to ask is the entire shoreline also affected past the Pineda Causeway and beyond, because Patrick actually owns property on A1A to has those two houses on the beach? And has there been any thought or study about moving more northerly to see if at Jetty Park and some of that other government area where Cape Canaveral Air Force Station is, exists, and whether there's anything along the seacoast there?
Right. One thing I'm waiting on is Cocoa Beach just recently did some new testing. They tested, I believe, 14 new sites, including, which surprisingly to me, they tested a Satellite Beach lift station. I'm waiting on results from those. I've got data points already entered into the map, and as soon, or not for this, I'm sorry. I've got data points from the previous testing. As soon as their new testing is done, I'm in contact with Cocoa Beach city officials, and they'll be sending me their GIS data, and it's going to be put right into the map and overlaid with all of the other testing results as well. To touch on your question about the groundwater flow and whether or not the beaches may be contaminated from this, I'm not exactly sure that they are, because we have a primary dune line right along the beaches. It's the primary dune is about 10 feet, 12 feet above sea level, and it slopes off. Okay, I see Brian's got his map pulling up here. It slopes off towards the river, and that's what causes the majority of the groundwater flow towards the river in a westerly direction, is that natural sloping from 10 feet at the primary dune down to 6 feet and 4 feet by the time you get down to the Carriage Park area, which is on the west side of DeSoto where I live. That natural sloping is what directs the groundwater. It flows. In one report I read from the 90s, I believe that Brian mentioned, the report indicates that the groundwater flows at 360 feet per day, which is a very swift groundwater current. So if the groundwater is moving that fast, and we still have test results that show 20, 30, 40 parts per million, or excuse me, parts per trillion of these PFAS contaminants by City Hall, that means that, I'm getting feedback here, that means that as the groundwater flows this quickly, something is replenishing these contaminants in the water. At 360 feet per day, the body of groundwater in our ground should have been completely washed out into the river and replenished by rainfall within just a few weeks. To find this level of contamination after hearing there's 360 feet per day of groundwater flow, it makes me think that there's something still there adding these contaminants to the ground, whether it be barrels of stuff at the dump site or an underground plume at the Air Force Base. We're not sure of that yet. The DoD report, the Patrick Air Force Base specific report that they released having to do with these AFFF releases, as Stel mentioned, it was 4.3 million parts per trillion. I know everybody wants to because the media is talking about parts per trillion. Everybody wants to hear a number in parts per trillion. So I'm gonna tell it like that. I'm gonna put it out in that format. 4.3 million parts per trillion is a lot. We're talking about 40 and 50 in our groundwater, and up at Patrick Air Force Base, they have a location where they tested 4.3 million parts per trillion in their groundwater. So it could be seeping down from the groundwater in Patrick Air Force Base. It could be buried barrels of stuff, but we have to, combination. It could very well be a lot of things. We got to rule things out until we find what's causing this and fix it.
A part of ruling that out is testing all of Brevard, and that's our next step, is we're going to test Cocoa Beach ourselves. We're going to do independent testing in Titusville, Mims, Rockledge, to compare all of the data. So that's something that we're planning on doing.
Have you considered, I know this would cause more work, but of all of the identified cases of illnesses in this area, doing an overlay map of where they lived in the area and how long they lived there? Whether they're there now or not makes no difference, but if they are diagnosed with anything, where they lived in the satellite beach area, and do an overlay lab, and that would put a concentration flow in.
That is basically what we've got here. This is not all illnesses, just all the different types of cancer. And that's one of the things about crowdsourcing. It's difficult to, like you said, nail down an address at the time of diagnosis. This is one thing that we've been meticulous about, is address at time of diagnosis, year of diagnosis. Unfortunately, age is one of the things that we haven't been able to break down quite. We haven't been able to break it down into age groups yet. But on our new website, I'm going to be designing a form to fill out where it will validate data entered by people to make sure that they've entered an appropriate address, that they didn't leave any fields blank, that they've left good contact information in case we need to clarify anything.
Yes, are there any media representatives here? Anybody from the media? Okay. Who are you with, sir?
Florida Today.
Florida Today. Okay, one media representative. The reason I ask is because you talked about getting the information out. This is an extremely important follow-up to the last meeting, which was quite recent, 2 weeks ago. It just seems to me there would be more media representation here because it is such an important issue, and the information coming out here really amplifies what was, and adds to what was said before. So it seems to me odd that there's not more media here reporting on this.
I think they're waiting for Aaron Brockovich, to be honest with you. I honestly, yeah, they should be here because we've worked extremely hard on this and we've collected a lot of data. This has been 20 hours a day work, sometimes no sleep at all. We're at it 24/7. We go to bed, we're all like 3 o'clock in the morning, let's take an hour. We're gonna lay down and I'll meet you back at 5 a.m. That's the work we're doing right now as far as this whole entire case goes.
I was up until 3 o'clock in the morning working on those maps.
And that's why we really need your help. And I wanted to bring it back to when we were talking about the sign-up, okay? Now, I told you the numbers of people that I know personally. All right, I went back and I tried to compare with Stel on some of these names that I know for a fact should be on that list. More than 75% of them are not on the list. They know me, they trust me, but now it's not a good time for them to get involved with this. Or they're busy. And the thing is people don't realize that it takes less than 3 minutes to fill out this survey, okay? We're not publishing your names. We're not trying to, you know, I know a lot of people, I was extremely sensitive about my cancer when I was first diagnosed. I didn't want people to treat me differently. I didn't want anybody to know. Okay, so I understand how a lot of people are shy about that. So please, I encourage all of you, if you know people, tell them it's a very simple form. Just go in there, put as much information as you can, but it's like 5 questions. It's really not a lot of things. There's no commitment. Nobody's going to be, you know, calling you, asking you to get up and speak and all of that kind of stuff, unless it's something you want to get involved in. I think people are afraid of the commitment that comes along with it, or, like I said, their names will be pushed in the newspaper or something like that. That's not the case here. We just need to know the facts, and there's power in numbers. And the more information we know, the more we can do things about it.
Absolutely, the data helps me paint a bigger picture. I'm going to have Brian wants to illustrate his map up here.
If you're interested, do you want to see it?
Yes.
What this is the topography map that we downloaded. And if you blow up into this section here, this is the base. I just want to show you the start. Do I do it here, or can you blow up to that section?
I think he's
Please.
trying to figure it. Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I have a hard time with it too. So, but okay, this is, boy, it's kind of difficult to see. This is the trench we're talking about. But go back up. I wanted to show you the start. Okay, it starts right here. The trench goes down. This is a present landfill. I think it's landfill 2. It goes south here. Oh, stop here. Okay. Present today, what they did was that they put a retention pond right here. Okay. Now, when you go back to all this trench that we're talking about here, it feeds into these little streams that go directly to the Banana River. So it's escaping this way, if there's anything there, and it's escaping this way, I feel. So if you can zoom in a little bit closer now, and then go south. Okay, let's see if you can really see it. Okay, it's depicted by 2 lines that go down with 2 arrows that go in, showing that there's a trench that goes into it. As we go south, okay, the trench stays intact, and this is what got my attention. Is my home is right here, right there. The lady next to me, her brother died of cancer. She presently has cancer. This is a 12-year-old girl that died of cancer. When I saw that, it literally goes right underneath the home. I still get goosebumps over it. So now, if you follow it back down, now this is where the other trench picks up. I believe it's right in here. This is the second trench that comes in. So you got 1, and you got 2. And if you follow this all the way down, goes through the field and terminates right there. Okay? I just feel that if you're going to try to find something, that might be the center point. And if you can find the center point, you can find out how far it dispersed out from the sides, start a cleanup. And that's, to me, pretty cut and dry. Can you bring it back north to the base again?
Terminated in satellite hot, is that correct?
Right past it.
If I tracked it correctly, if you go to where the pool is, the swimming pool, there's a gate that goes out to the, right there.
If it's the same trench that I tracked on my maps, yes, it goes to the west, right through the field.
One of the things I wanted to point out is I've put in several FOIA requests, Freedom of Information Act requests. I put it to the United States Air Force, DOD, and I also put one through the EPA. EPA sent me one product, and now what I have to do is, the reason they didn't provide me actually what I wanted is the name change. There appears to be like a shell game going on with either identifying as Region 1, Landfill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the way I requested it was landfills 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. What I got back from the DOD is absolutely nothing. They had 20 days to respond. They've sent it to their legal department for review and also a third party for review. The EPA sent me one document out of, well, actually, it's probably my fault because I didn't know the language. But now that I have their language, I see that now they've got it divided into regions. So I'm going forward again with another Freedom of Information Act request. Inside the one I asked for, the base has already done their restorations, by the way. They've already taken out the foliage, they've replaced the dirt, they backfilled it in with water, and so what I requested was the pre-test of the soils and waters and a post-test. What I got back was only one post-test, and it was for landfill number 2, which is the one that's near the commissary BX. And inside that land, after it was restored, lead, arsenic, thallium, which is rat poison basically, but it's also used back in World War II and presently for laser tracking. So right now, it's still in progress. I'm still trying to get the FOIA request. I'm going to revise another request, send it to EPA, and then I'm dealing with the DOD right now. So I'm sure I'm going to get back from them as redacted documents, but I shouldn't say that. But
Thank you, Brian, for illustrating the Piper Trench